And joining me now on Skype for more analysis is Amy Howe, co-founder of SCOTUS blog. Amy, welcome back to the show. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Now, Amy, there were several big issues before the court in today's argument. What stood out to you?
There were justices really on both sides of the ideological spectrum, and then there were a couple of justices in the middle, most notably Chief Justice John Roberts, who many think of as sort of the swing justice now that Justice Anthony Kennedy has retired from the court, has been retired for 2 years now. And he was visibly frustrated, I think, that the court was still dealing with this issue. He really, I think, would have preferred everyone to try to work out some accommodation so that the Supreme Court doesn't have to decide it. And I think he was probably sympathetic to the Little Sisters' plight, but on the other hand seemed concerned that maybe the exemption that the Trump administration had created might go too far to apply not only to groups like the Little Sisters of the Poor, but also to publicly traded corporations that might have objections to the mandate. And so it really could come down to the Chief Justice, and there were some of the what we think of as liberal justices, but who are more pragmatic in their approach, like Justice Stephen Breyer and Justice Elena Kagan, who seemed like they might be trying to work with the Chief Justice to find a middle ground. But there might not be 5 votes for a middle ground.
Amy, as Mark noted, this case has been before the court before. What's changed since the last time the justices took up this question?
So the last time the Supreme Court heard this question was back in 2016, and it was after the death of Justice Antonin Scalia, when there were only 8 justices on the court. And so the Supreme Court heard oral argument, and you don't know exactly what goes on behind closed doors, but you had the sense that back then the justices were sort of throwing up their hands, and they sent the case back to the lower courts in the hope that they could work out something that would accommodate the religious beliefs of the Little Sisters, but at the same time ensure that the women who worked for some of these groups would still have access to contraception. And so since then, we've had a new administration, the Trump administration, which issued the regulations that are at the center of today's case. And we have 2 new justices, Justice Neil Gorsuch, who replaced Justice Scalia, and then Justice Brett Kavanaugh, who replaced Justice Anthony Kennedy back in 2018.
Amy, I know that you've been covering the court for some time now. How do you think these oral arguments over teleconference, how do you think they're going so far?
It's a very different format. The Supreme Court is what we call a hot bench. And so normally when they're in the courtroom, you have questions coming fast and furious from all sides. And it's really hard to do over the phone when you can't see who's talking. The justices are all in different places. And so they've adopted a very different format in which each justice takes turns asking questions. And so it's very different from the way that the oral arguments proceed in the courtroom, but everyone seems to be dealing with it very well. I think that my sense is that the public seems to be enjoying having the chance to listen to high profile and important arguments like the one we heard today in real time, to hear some of the justice, to hear all of the justices in action, and to hear some really great lawyers advocating on behalf of their clients. It's nice to be able to hear.
Absolutely. Interesting indeed. Well, Amy, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you coming on. Amy Howe, co-founder of SCOTUS blog. Thanks again.
Thank you.